that this hearing is actually not about oversight or DOGE, but about spreading hate and using trans lives to distract from the real issues that Americans are facing.
The United States is hosting the Summer Games in Los Angeles in 2028. It's a great time for us to once again take the lead in protecting and preserving the ability of women to engage in safe, fair athletic competition by keeping biological men out of women's sports. I don't want any more women missing out on medal opportunities, avoiding athletic competitions, or missing out on college scholarships. And I don't want to see any more girls or women getting hurt. We cannot and should not forget the gruesome injury suffered by one of our witnesses here today, Peyton McNabb. It happened when she was spiked in the head by a male athlete who identified as a transgender woman. And I'd like to ask the digital team to please play this video now. That is sick.
Let's call this hearing what it actually is. It's about bullying trans kids and members of the trans community to distract from the failed policies of the Trump administration, the failed policies and exploitation of this DOGE subcommittee, and the GOP's own cruel agenda that is happening right now here on Capitol Hill as they're trying to gut Medicaid, gut food assistance, gut environmental programs to give tax breaks to billionaires, because that is actually what's going on behind these doors all around us. So, as the ranking member of this subcommittee, let me start by saying to everyone in the trans and LGBTQ plus community who might be watching or listening today that we see you, we love you, we respect you, we are fighting for you, and we will fight back against this hateful agenda. Now, I do want to point out here at the outset that we are, in fact, in the Oversight Subcommittee on, quote unquote, delivering on government efficiency. And this is a committee here in Congress that was created this year by the GOP, supposedly to address government efficiency. And this hearing literally has nothing to do with that. In fact, it has nothing to do with anything that falls under the Oversight and Accountability Committee's jurisdiction. This hearing is so irrelevant to this committee, it's just a complete distraction from what is actually happening in Congress right now. So let's review what this subcommittee is actually supposed to be working on, since my friends seem to have forgotten that. In their own Rule 6 of this committee, this subcommittee shall, quote, have oversight jurisdiction over the federal civil service, including compensation, classification, benefits, federal property disposal, government reorganization and operations, transparency, performance, grants management, and accounting measures generally. That is the jurisdiction of this committee. And I don't know about any of you, but I don't see anything in here about sports, the Olympics, Title IX, fencing, and certainly nothing about policing the bodies of Americans. And frankly, hearings of this subcommittee have become so divorced from reality or anything resembling oversight and the jurisdiction of this committee, it's basically turned into a political campaign ad, as you just saw on these TVs. That's what this subcommittee has devolved into. And frankly, I think many of us expected that that's where we would end up. But meanwhile, Donald Trump is letting Elon Musk and his cabinet secretaries and OMB now continue to dismantle our federal agencies, to hack our private data. They're firing veterans and teachers and firefighters. They're trying to break Social Security and the VA. And there is literally no oversight happening here in this committee under the GOP. In fact, my colleagues have failed to bring even a single administration witness here to this committee. They haven't brought Elon Musk, they haven't brought a cabinet secretary, they haven't brought a political, they haven't brought anyone to this committee to answer to the lawless and immoral behavior that's happening inside the administration or anything that relates to the jurisdiction of this committee. That's why even though we had hoped on the Democratic side for real and meaningful bipartisan work to make the government more efficient, to make it work better for Americans, We have to sit here week after week and fight back against this abusive and lawless and ridiculous agenda. And, I want to just point out that there are now over 220 lawsuits against the Trump administration and over 130 court restraining orders and injunctions against them because of this agenda. So why did the chairwoman decide to call this hearing today? Why is it that we're trying to distract from an agenda that is so unpopular that 2/3 of Americans disapprove of what DOGE and Elon Musk is doing? Maybe it has something to do with the failure of the president in the first 100 days, that his approval ratings have declined by 14%. Maybe it's to distract from the reality that our economy is tanking and prices are going up. Maybe it's because the budget that came to Congress last week doubles down on proposals to take food out of the mouths of children. Maybe it's because behind closed doors all around us, they're trying to take away your Medicaid and your food assistance. So why bully trans kids? Why take up airspace to bully a population that only makes up 0.6% of the population? Because clearly they're living rent-free in the GOP's minds. But simply put, Republicans are focused on the wrong 1%. So why are they so obsessed? Why is Trump attacking trans people? Why is this the centerpiece of the Republicans here on Capitol Hill? Honestly, it's weird. And it's wrong. And I just want to say to all of the people in the trans community who are watching, we uplift your stories. We are fighting for the community. We are fighting for the rights of everyone in our communities. And this hearing has absolutely nothing to do with the Oversight Committee. And that is why, at this time, I make a motion to immediately adjourn this hearing.
The motion is not debatable. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying no.
No.
In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it, and a recorded vote will be asked for. The clerk will call the roll. The clerk will report the tally.
Ms. Chairwoman, on this vote, the noes are 7, the ayes are 6.
The noes have it, and the motion to adjourn is not agreed to.
Madam Chair, a point of parliamentary inquiry.
What's your inquiry?
Could you please further expound about how this falls under the jurisdiction of this subcommittee and the rules?
Ms. Stansbury, under Committee Rule 6A2, Chairman Comer of the Oversight Committee has referred responsibility for this hearing to the DOGE subcommittee hearing regarding USA fencing.
So Chairman Comer is changing the rules so that now fencing hearings fall under Department of Government Efficiency?
Okay, this is the rule book right here, Ms. Stansbury. I'm sure you have a copy of it.
Can you read us
The
the part
number
that
2.
refers fencing to this subcommittee?
Number 2, in addition, each subcommittee shall have specific responsibility for such other measures or matters as the chair of the committee refers to it. And this is the hearing that we are having jurisdiction over. It's an important issue that biological men stay out of women's sports, and we'd like to hold the hearing on that today, and we're going to continue and go ahead. No one is here today to harm transgenders. We are here to defend girls and women, and we are here to defend Title IX and to uphold President Trump's executive order that all biological males stay out of girls' and women's sports. Here displayed behind me is the post that Mr. Lefelt put up. Mr. Lefelt came in here today saying that this is game day. You're right, Mr. Lefelt, this is game day. Under the Ted Stevens Act, USA Fencing and other national governing bodies that are authorized to oversee individual sports on a national level have a certain obligation. One such duty is to provide support and encouragement for participation by women, where separate programs for male and female athletes are conducted on a national basis. Another statutory duty is to promote a safe environment in sports that is free from abuse of any amateur athlete, including emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Mr. Lefelt, as the board chair of USA Fencing, surely you are aware of these legal requirements. That means you believe that forcing a woman to compete against a biological man promotes a safe environment that is free from emotional abuse. Is that correct?
One moment, a point of order, please,
You're
Madam
not.
Chair.
You're not. Okay,
Madam
what is
Chair,
yours?
I have a point of order. The document that you have up behind you is a misrepresentation of the actual post. It appears that you're trying to misrepresent a witness here who you use subpoena powers against.
This is not Miss
This is-
Stansbury. Miss Stansbury, this is not a point of order.
This is the actual picture.
Miss Stansbury,
that she has
you're not
clipped and
recognized.
put
Miss
on the
Stansbury,
board
you're not
behind me.
recognized. Miss Stansbury, you are not
Madam
recognized.
Chairwoman.
You are not. This is not a
misrepresenting the
point of
truth.
order, Miss
You
Stansbury.
are
This is not a point of order.
misrepresenting what this committee does. You are misrepresenting the
Stansbury.
witnesses. You are misrepresenting policy. You are misrepresenting.
Miss Stansbury, you're not
everything.
recognized. You're not recognized. That's not a point of order. You're abusing the rules of this committee. This is the post of Mr. Lefelt that he posted himself on his own social media. And that's exactly why we have it displayed here today, because Mr. Lefelt believes that he can take away the opportunities for women to compete in USA Fencing, and he thinks this is game day to defend biological men. Now, we're going to return to my time as chair of this committee. Ms. Turner, refusing to compete against a man cost you a 12-month probation. Did you feel you were in a safe environment, free from abuse, when you were told you must compete against a man in an all-out competition?
No.
No, that wasn't free from emotional abuse. Ms. McNabb, when a biological man spiked a ball into your head, were you free from physical or emotional abuse?
I was not.
Ms. McNabb, did you feel you were placed in a safe environment when you faced a biological male in a girls' volleyball game?
No, I did not feel safe.
Ms. Turner, were you safe when you were forced to go up against a biological male in your sport?
No, I was not.
Mr. Lefelt, do you think your perception of what constitutes a safe environment for women is more valid than that of a woman testifying here today?
Congresswoman, thank you for your question. There was a study that was published in 2010 regarding the safety of sports in the Olympic movement. There were 51 sports that were assessed as part of that study.
That's a yes or no question, Mr. Lefelt. Do you? Is
Ma'am,
that
it's
your
a-
perception? You're
it's a
sitting
more
next to a
nuanced
young
answer.
woman who received a brain injury from a biological male. Is it safe to compete against biological males? Yes or no, Mr. Lefelt?
What happened to Miss?
Yes or no?
What happened to Miss McNabb
I'll take
was
that as a no. Mr. Lefelt, do you think forcing a woman to change in front of a man in a locker room is abusive? Yes or no?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure I
Do you
follow the
want your
question.
daughter to change in front of biological men in locker rooms? Yes or no?
My daughter isn't really something that should be part of this
Oh,
hearing,
I'm gonna.
respectfully.
If you're not a quick no on that, we're gonna take that as a no. We're gonna switch gears to USA Fencing site selection policy. You're the chair of USA Fencing. You should be familiar. Mr. Lefelt, what does abortion have to do with fencing?
Congresswoman, that policy was passed before I got on the board. However, when
You're the chair of the board now. What does abortion have to do with fencing, Mr. Lefelt?
I'm on the board, you're correct, and I offered an amendment to that policy back in December, Congresswoman, that allowed for more flexibility at the
What,
city
to
level.
get an abortion while you're at fencing competitions? I
And
don't
it
think
also
so.
allowed for better convenience. So we enhanced the policy
More
under my
convenience to
leadership on the
Planned
board.
Parenthood centers. Mr. Lefelt, why does USA Fencing states abortion policies and LGBTQ policies in its site selection process to determine where tournaments are held? That's part of your site selection process, is abortion availability and states and cities that are friendly to LGBTQ policies. How is that part of USA Fencing?
Congresswoman, we try to have tournaments in sites that are safe for all of our members, period.
So you don't think red states are safe for fencing athletes?
Red states are absolutely safe, and we regularly host tournaments there, including Texas, Ohio,
No,
Missouri.
your site selection policies are based on abortion availability and LGBTQ availability, not on fencing, not on your sport. Now, let's go a little bit further with this.
Madam Chairwoman, your time has expired.
You're not recognized, Ms. Crockett. Mr. Liffelt, you wrote a blog post where you said that one day your daughter
Madam
might
Chair, on a point of
compete-
order.
This is my time, and I'm the chair of the
No,
committee.
that was your time. Your time is over, and now we're asking, are we?
The chair has discretion to assign
I've
time, and
lost
you know it,
time.
sir.
I have lost
As long as
time.
we have that understanding, that's fine.
I've lost time. for
I
all
yield
this
2.5
discussion.
minutes to the chair lady.
Mr. Liffelt, you wrote a blog post where you said that one day your daughter might compete against a transgender woman, a biological man. You said that if she did, you might win or she might lose. But whatever the result, you hope she doesn't care about the outcome, because the important thing is that both she and her opponent enjoy the match. That's what you wrote in your little trans manifesto. But you came here today to win. And you came here today to defeat women in their own sport. So as you stand here before this committee today, you are a man that would tell your daughter to lose and enjoy it to a biological man. My time has expired, and with that, I recognize Ms. Stansbury to defend all the trans.
Point of order. Out of curiosity, is the chairwoman allowed to editorialize before every speaker on the Democratic side speaks, or is that part of her time, which we know that she went over?
It's not a point of order. You're taking Ms. Stansbury's time. I know you're trying to be chair of oversight, but Ms. Stansbury is the ranking member.
Chair would be better on this side. I do agree with that.
It's Ms. Stansbury's time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you can see, this is a hearing full of performance artists, not legislators. To our witnesses and guests, I do appreciate you coming today, but this is not the venue for this conversation, and our colleagues know that across the aisle. That is part of why the distraction of the gaveling and the yelling and the performance art is happening here today, because this is not an oversight hearing. This is not what the jurisdiction of the Oversight Committee is. And the chairman and the chairwoman both know that. And they both know that a little over 100 days ago, when Republicans were clamoring to show Donald Trump and Elon Musk that they were going to carry their water here in Congress, they created this subcommittee to do Elon Musk's bidding. But now that he is so unpopular, that 2/3 of Americans are opposed to DOGE and Elon Musk, the honeymoon is over, my friends. And so what are they doing with the DOGE subcommittee? They're bullying trans kids. They're talking about things that have absolutely nothing to do with government oversight or efficiency or the economy or the reality that Donald Trump is tanking the economy and the reality that Americans are pissed as hell and are marching in the streets. And they're turning the DOGE subcommittee into, apparently now, a fencing oversight committee. Welcome, we're not even gonna call it the DOGE subcommittee anymore. This is called the Fencing Oversight Committee. Welcome to the Fencing Oversight Committee. But in reality, we know this is all about bullying trans kids, as they are literally over on the floor debating renaming the Gulf of Mexico this week, because they have no real agenda other than tanking the economy, taking away health care, taking away food out of the mouths of children, and basically distracting the American people while they prepare the largest tax break for billionaires ever in the history of this country. But it's not enough to just obsessively talk and think about trans people, which obviously are living rent-free in their minds. Donald Trump has put into place over a dozen executive orders and actions bullying trans people. Here, this committee is trying to take their own punch. They're trying to keep trans people from using bathrooms inside the Capitol. I mean, all of this is part of their regular playbook. Do really bad, evil things, and then distract the American people by doing ridiculous things in public spaces like this. So I am very grateful to Ms. Goss-Graves for being here to break through the noise, to talk about real issues that are affecting our communities, because among the things that affect women, girls, all people are the cuts to healthcare, the cuts to education, the cuts to vital programs that our people depend on. But what I think is so important is to highlight the ways in which using public spaces like this to bully trans people creates a lack of safety for the LGBTQ plus community. And so, Ms. Goss-Graves, can you talk about how exactly what's happening here today normalizes hate and how that translates into violence and hate against the LGBTQ plus community?
You know, this is exactly my deep worry. Over the last couple of years, we have seen in states around the country, and now in this body and from the president, using government to attack some of our most vulnerable people. And the hateful rhetoric translates to violence. It's trans young people who are experiencing violence in school. And it also means that we have seen an increase in incidents of suicide. So when I think about young people today who may be tuning in, I want to reaffirm that their existence is okay and that they are supported. But I also want to say very, very clearly, even though people have been spun up in this frenzy, that all the problems in the world are apparently now caused by trans folks existing, that is simply not true. And if we have a very serious and concerted effort to address rising costs, to address access to health care, to address the experiences that people are having in this country who are begging for help, this body actually could be doing that. In an oversight way, even, it would be especially important to hear this body do that so that we could have a conversation around what has the impact been for people in this country, for women and girls, because of DOGE. Those are the things I hear about all the time.
Yes, thank you very much. And I also
The gentlelady's time has expired.
I also want to acknowledge your
The gentlelady's time has
acknowledgement of
expired.
the-
I now
Madam Chair,
recognize
do we not have a-
Ms.
You
McLean
spoke for over
from
a minute
Michigan.
more
Point of
than
order.
your allocated
You
time.
took a minute of my time, wasting my time on a non-point of order. The gentlelady's
Madam
time has
Chair, the
expired. I now
clock was
recognize
not running during the
Ms.
point of
McLean
order.
from
Point of order.
Your time was not wasted. And to the trans
I now
community,
recognize
we
Ms. McLean
stand
from-
with you, with the
Madam.
LGBTQ plus community. We stand with you, and you can
Madam
break
Chair.
my eardrums all you want, Madam Chair, but we stand with the LGBTQ plus community, and you can gavel me till.
Order. This
Cows
this
come
hearing
home
will
and it
come to
won't
order.
stop it.
This hearing will come to order.
Madam
You
Chair, I have
will
a
This
question.
hearing will come to order.
Madam Chair, I
This
just-
hearing will come to order. I now
a
recognize
point of order.
Ms. McLean
I
from
just have a point of
Michigan.
order.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me tell you,
Madam Chair, I
Yeah.
I had a
What's your
point of order. Could we just have the timekeeper, log the time between both the Democrats and Republicans, and then we rebalance them so that we each have equal time? That's pretty basic.
We will consider that, thank you.
No,
But
no, no,
stop,
no, 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 no.
you took a minute of my time.
That's
All
not a
right, okay.
suggestion. Those are the
Enough,
rules.
Enough.
No, 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 no.
you're wasting your
Hey,
time,
look,
that's
either-
not.
Either we go
We
by
are
the
keeping
rules
equal
or we're
time.
out of here.
We're keeping equal time.
The door's
okay.
open.
Ms.
All right.
McLean from Michigan is now recognized.
thank you, Madam Chair. Let me tell you what I'm here for. I'm here to protect women and girls. And for all of you young women and girls watching today, I hear you. I hear your stories. I hear your bullying stories. I hear your uncomfortableness. Because you see, sometimes young women and girls get trampled over. But let me tell you what I'm here for. I'm here as a mother and as a coach and as an athlete to stand up for the rights of women and especially young girls. That's what I'm here for. And in 1972, Title IX of the Education Amendments prohibits gender discrimination in all educational programs receiving federal funds. And I'm here today because women have had to fight for every God-given right, and I'll be damned if we're going to go back on that. When biological men invade women's spaces, our rights are violated, and our spaces are violated. Now, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle constantly talk about following the science. But this makes it clear that this is merely a disingenuous slogan. So let's follow the science for a moment. Not opinions, but science. So, Ms. Graves, what is the average difference in skeletal muscle between biological men and biological women?
So I'm definitely not a scientist, but I can tell you about the studies that have been done looking at transgender athletes, cisgender athletes.
It's a great answer to a question I didn't ask, so perhaps I can help you.
So the answer, I think where you're trying to go is there an inherent
Is there a
advantage for
biological
transgender
difference
women
between men and women?
in all contexts? And the answer is no.
Okay,
right now.
Okay.
The answer is no.
Okay, let
And
me
so
educate you.
And the reason
Okay,
that I can
reclaiming
tell
my
you that
time.
the answer is no is because UCLA has studied this. They did a study of
The
studies.
gentlewoman's reclaimed her time. Ms. McLean's recognized.
So I'll educate you. I'll tell you, men have 30 to 40% more skeletal muscle than biological women. That's not right. That's not wrong. That just is what it is. I was going to ask you what is the difference in upper body strength, but I don't think you know that either. So I'll answer that question for you as well. Biological men exhibit 20 to 50% greater upper body strength, and 25 to 30% lower body strength than biological women. That's just the science. Ms. Graves, you stated your organization's mission is to ensure safety and opportunity for all girls. Was Peyton McNabb safe on September 1st of 2022?
It sounds like she definitely wasn't. And
Thank
what happened
you.
to her was tragic. I would argue, though,
Thank
that the answer is to ensure that people can't spike volleyballs into people's heads. That seems unsafe.
Thank
no
you
matter
for your
who's
answer,
spiking
Ms.
the ball.
Graves. So I will reclaim my time on that. So here's the inherent problem. If I would say I'm a 6'2" blonde supermodel, you agree with that statement? I know my husband does, but does that make it true?
I'm not sure how tall you are because you're sitting down, but I'm assuming you're not blonde.
Look like a 6'2" blonde supermodel?
No.
Okay. But I identify as one, okay? Just because I identify as one doesn't make it true, but let's go ahead and say for a moment it's true. The issue that I have for the young girls is you can live in your reality. You can live in your reality. But when your reality intrudes on my safety and puts another person at harm or in harm's way, that's when I have a problem with it. When you want to live in your distorted reality, you can do that. But that doesn't mean everybody else has to do that either. Because I will ask you one other question. Can a 43-year-old man identify as a 13-year-old boy? Ms. Graves?
Can a 40?
Can a 43-year-old man live in his reality of identifying as a 13-year-old boy?
So this question makes me understand that you.
No, this
are
question is a
part-
question that you need to answer that you refuse. If we're going to be who we want to be, can a 43-year-old man identify as a 13-year-old boy?
The witness can answer, but the gentlelady's time's expired.
So here's the thing. It is
It's a
absolutely.
yes or no.
So I'm hoping that some people are watching, and so that's why I'm trying to provide some.
There's, the gentlelady's time's expired. This is a yes or no question.
Okay. I would have loved to give a fuller answer. Here is my answer to you. The answer is no, that an adult can't be a child.
Why they identify as
Yeah.
one?
Okay, thank you
And
very
there
much.
is-
Thank
if
you
you'd
for
like me
for
to
answering the
provide
question.
a
The gentlelady's
fuller
time's
answer,
expired.
I'm
I now
really happy to
recognize
do
the
that.
the witness will suspend. I now recognize Ms. Norton from Washington, D.C. for 5 minutes.